It's been a hot minute since I sat down in front of a camera because I was in Las Vegas for a week and life has just been lifing lately. We had Thanksgiving, we had Vegas, and now I'm sitting in front of the camera starting to film for the remainder of December. So it's been a hot minute. So if I need a drink of coffee. I need a drink of coffee. Yes, I do. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Welcome to today's video. If you're new here, my name is Staci. I have unfiltered makeup opinions, honest reviews, OG, old school tutorials. And today we're actually going to be doing something a little bit different on my channel. It's something we are starting for 2024 and I'm going to be carrying it forward into 2025. Today we're talking about my most used makeup of 2024. I also want to start this video with a caveat that this is not the best of beauty of 2024. This is just product that I found myself using a lot in 2024. So keep that in mind. This is part one because I'm going through every single category that I have. We're talking about primers, foundation, concealer, blush, bronzer, eyeshadows, single shadows, mascara, brows. Like we're talking about all the categories and these are the top products that I used in 2024. So we are going to start with the base of the face today. I am saving the eyes for last. Buckle up. We're getting into this video right now. So starting in the primer category, my top 5 primers that I have used in 2024. I actually have like a plethora of different primers that I've used. Some were gripping primers, some were pore filling primers. Some of them have been completely panned and used up. As I've gotten older, I've noticed that if I don't have a primer, that my makeup just tends to not last as long as what it should. Now, I am 35 years old. I live in a 4-seasoned climate, so I get all of the seasons. I get all 4 seasons here in upstate New York, which means that my skin reacts to the weather. So I'm looking for something that's really going to make my makeup last a long time, that it doesn't texturize or, you know, something that's going to fill in my pores, blur my pores. And it's really going to make a really good base for all of the foundation and blush and bronzer product that I'm putting on top of it. I had 5 primers this year that I was just like absolutely in love with, could not put down. If you guys go through my channel, you'll see a lot of these are in the description box when I use them, and they were my favorite primers of 2024. The Danessa Myricks Yummy Skin Blur Powder Primer. I actually got a sample size of this and it was in a Sephora like gift box, gift set sort of thing. And I received this. Now this actually is the like translucent universal shade because apparently it comes in shades, but this is a very mattifying, very, very blurring type of primer. And actually when you like feel it on your skin, it kind of has that same property as like the poreless blurring primer from e.l.f., the one that's like the poreless putty primer, not the liquid one, but this one, the one that's like in a little tub like this. So it is a clearing consistency primer. I do find, I have it right here. You can kind of see it. I do find that it blurs my skin really, really nicely, and it did prep my skin really nicely. And it also helps to control some of my oil, like if I would have a little bit of excess oil, especially in the summertime. And it would really help control any oil or any excess oil that I was having because of the weather that we were having outside. And I found that it was really mattifying, so it did give me a really nice base to start with. Even if I chose to use more of a glowy foundation or a matte foundation, but I did find that this was a really good base, especially with the L'Oreal Infallible 32-Hour Fresh Wear Foundation. Now let's talk about some drugstore, because I have some drugstore that I just could not put down in 2024. 2 of them are from e.l.f. Since we're talking about like blurring primers, like pore filling primers, let's talk about this one. This is the e.l.f. Poreless Putty Primer. This is also a silicone feeling primer. It's very slippy. It's very like, it's not a gripping primer. It's just a very like slippy, grippy, liquidy primer. And when you put it on, it does have like a blurring effect to the skin. It does create this like even textured, blurred look, and it is tinted pink, which I have found that really helps cancel out some of the like blue. If you have a lot of blue or purples in your face, it helps cancel that out because it's almost like a salmony pinkish color, and it does do a little bit of color correcting as well. It does make for a long-lasting application. I found that this particular foundation also worked really well with the L'Oreal Infallible Fresh Wear Foundation, and I really liked this because it was $10. It's the liquid version of the e.l.f. Poreless Putty Primer, so it's a little bit more fluid on the face, and it's easier to evenly distribute it all over your face, whereas the compact version of the Poreless Putty Primer, or like the Danessa Myricks one, it's easier to put this on my face because it is a liquid product. It is not one of those that's in a compact. That's really hard to distribute across the face, across the board. But I did find that it did not over accentuate any of my pores at all. It really did a good job of filling in my fine lines underneath my eyes really, really well. Anytime I was having a little bit more of blue in my face, I really found that it canceled out the blue, especially under my eyes, and it really just blurred everything and made it this really nice cohesive look. Now this one, I actually have another one already open, but I have here the e.l.f. Power Gripping Primer. This is a drugstore primer. This is my OG go-to primer. I think I've repurchased this 2 or 3 times now. I've had so many of these, and this is a true gripping primer. It retails for $10. It is from e.l.f. It's available at the drugstore, and it gives you this cooling effect on your face when you use it. And it really just soothes my skin. Anytime that I feel I'm having a little bit of a flare up, I do have some hyperpigmentation. But what I really like about this primer is that it grips the makeup so well, and it makes it last a really, really long time, but it's also super hydrating with my skin. This is I want to say the 3rd one I've gone through, and I actually have another one already in my makeup bag, but I had to pull it out because you guys can see, I am down to the bare bones in this one. And this is the one that I keep as on my vanity when I'm sitting up in my makeup room. I love this primer. It is really, really good. I love the gripping properties behind it. I think it performs really, really well, and it makes my makeup last forever. This is the primer I go to anytime that I'm doing a foundation wear test. This is my go-to primer every single time. And this was my most used primer in 2024 by far. So this primer was actually a new discovery later in 2024. I'd actually heard a couple of reviews on this primer before I decided to try it myself. And it was in a video about Catrice and what they've been up to. If you're not familiar with Catrice, they used to be available at Ulta Beauty, so you could buy them pretty much at any Ulta Beauty that you walked into, which was nice because Ulta Beauty is in major cities, so it was pretty accessible. Now you can only buy Catrice on Amazon and on their website, which was really sad for me because I have some favorites from Catrice that I absolutely love, and I feel nobody talks about them anymore. So I did a full face of Catrice. I tried the Aqua Grip Primer, and I was really blown away by this primer. It performs really similarly to the e.l.f. Power Grip Primer, don't get me wrong, and it does have the same retail price of $10. But I found that this primer is a lot more hydrating feeling on my skin than the e.l.f. Power Gripping Primer because it does have hyaluronic acid in it. And it really, it plumps my skin. It has that cooling effect that you typically get from the e.l.f. Power Gripping Primer, but it has the hyaluronic acid in it. So it really is pushing the hyaluronic acid into my skin to get my skin to plump more. Now, the key with this primer specifically, and it's not something that I typically practice with the e.l.f. Power Grip Primer, but with the Aqua Grip Primer, I have found you actually need to let it sit on your skin for a couple of minutes before you actually start applying makeup so you can really get that tacky feel to your makeup. If you apply your makeup right after putting the primer on, it doesn't do as good of a job as what it could. So that is one thing that I have found with this primer. But overall, I found that it really grips my makeup, really sucks my makeup onto my face, and it doesn't really move. I'm not saying it's not transfer proof, but the makeup really grips onto my skin, and my makeup just applies that much better because my skin is plumped, hydrated, and it also has that gripping property to it, and is such a good primer. So good. As a primer, even though I know you're supposed to mix this in with skincare, I typically don't do that. But I did also try the Makeup Revolution bronzing drops this year. Now, these are multi-use bronzing drops. They have squalene, hyaluronic acid. They also have grapeseed oil in them. I found myself using this so much during the summer months, mixing it with my tinted sunscreens, mixing it with my foundations that had a lot of sunscreen in them to give myself a little bit less white cast and to just really even out any of the product that I was testing out this summer. And this I've also used on its own as just a primer. I've actually found, because of the skin loving ingredients in it, it really helps my skin be a little bit more plump, a little bit more full, and it also obviously bronzes my face. So it warms up my face a little bit. But if I'm looking for something that's going to nourish my skin, but it also provides the bronzing effect, and it also provides that like lit from within glow, I was placing this on my face all the time. I was actually using it in conjunction with primers, but then also on its own, where I was just using this as a primer, and it is such a beautiful product. If I remember correctly, it retails for like $8, and it comes in 0.77 fluid ounces, and it's a great product. I was using this so much this summer specifically because I really liked the sun-kissed look that I got with this primer. We have foundation. Foundation, if you guys haven't seen my foundation wear test playlist, I'm going to leave it linked for you guys, but I do a lot of foundation wear tests. I do a lot of foundation reviews. I love a good foundation. Like if I can find a good foundation that sustains the mom test, then I'm going to love it even more. And the mom test is, my kids love to hug me, kiss me. They like to put their hands all over my face. I give them a shower at night, and so my face is like being splashed with water, and it goes through the ringer. When I'm foundation testing, it goes through the ringer, and I love finding a really good foundation. So let's start out with some of the most used, like these were my most used foundations in 2024. But I have 5 foundations that were like complete favorites of 2024. Let's start with this one, the L'Oreal Infallible 32-Hour Fresh Wear Foundation. I did do a foundation wear test of this foundation. I believe it was an earlier of this year. And what happened is they reformulated this foundation. It used to be a 24-hour fresh wear foundation, and they actually reformulated it. They added vitamin C to it, and now it's a 32-hour fresh wear foundation with 25 SPF sunscreen in it as well. I think it had that as well, like before they reformulated. I love this foundation. I have found that, let's rewind a little bit. So when I tried the 24-hour fresh wear foundation, which was the old version of this one, I didn't like how it wore. I felt it looked really cakey on my skin, and it just kind of over accentuated a lot of the fine lines I have, the texture that I have, and it really didn't cover very well either. A lot of people have said that they love this foundation. They love the old variation of it. And when I reviewed this initially, I felt very oily when I first used it, and it just didn't wear right. But over time, it became a huge favorite of mine. I love that it's like a serum-like consistency when I put it on my face. And I like that it has this like lightweight feel. It also has the vitamin C, so it really brightens my skin as well. And it also actually, I found that this lasts a heck of a ton longer than what the old one used to, obviously because they changed the formula and it's 32-hour fresh wear now. This one I loved to pair with the e.l.f. Power Gripping Primer. Those two together are like chef's kiss, absolutely beautiful. And it really just like gave me juicy looking skin. So beautiful, so airbrushed, and I absolutely loved the way that my skin looked with this foundation. This was one of my most used foundations of 2024. It was so good, and I still can't put it down. I love this foundation. Over the summer, I couldn't get enough of a cream foundation. I'm not a cream person by any means at all, because I find that when I wear foundation sticks or creams, it just is very heavy on my skin, and it doesn't really mesh well with my skin. But I have here the Toti CC Solera Compact. This has a SPF of 50, so it has really good SPF benefits, especially during the summertime. And I found that if I just did a light coat of this all over my face, I got the SPF with I also have the sunscreen that I would pair with it as well. And I would just get really good skin coverage with this for the sun, but also really good, nice, like your skin, but better coverage when I was wearing it as a foundation. Sometimes I would use it and I would just spot conceal, like if I was like on the go and could not really do like a full face of makeup, or I would apply it all over with a beauty blender and just like pounce it into my skin. And it just looked so airbrushed on my face. And it's a cream, but it wore really nicely throughout the day. It's not oily, even though it has a really high SPF concentration in it. and it's just so pretty on the skin. Like, it's just got this beautiful cream texture, and it literally just looks so pretty on my skin. Sometimes I even use it as like a really quick concealing type of product even now. And this was like used so much in 2024 that I went through my first compact of it. And this is actually my second compact. Like, I panned the entire thing. I used the entire thing, and then I had to buy another one. So I went through one, and now we have the second one that I'm working on. And that tells you a lot, because there are a lot of foundations in my collection that I have, and I went through one of these already, and it was just that good. I have a new release from Sigma Beauty. I did a whole foundation wear test on this one too. This is the Skin Perfector Hydrator Tint, and oh my goodness, how much I loved this. This is like my perfect skin tint. It has a medium coverage. It's your skin but better. It is dewy. It also has hyaluronic acid in it, vitamin E, squalene, and niacinamide. So it has some really great skincare ingredients. But I loved this because it was like a medium coverage with those ingredients in it that really just made my skin look very youthful and very glowy, especially at the end of the summer when I was hitting those like 99-degree days here in upstate New York. It got so hot at the end of August, and this was like the perfect skin tint for me to wear. I would wear this with the e.l.f. Power Gripping Primer quite a bit, and I just loved the really nice, like, subtle medium coverage that you got from it. You could use a beauty blender and shear it out all over your face, or you could use a brush, and you could use the brush and, like, you know, stipple it into your face. I found that the brush gave me a little bit better of a coverage, and it just looks so pretty on my skin. Loved this skin tint so much. When I reviewed it, I was like, is this the skin tint of my dreams? The skin tint that I've been looking for my entire life? Because literally it is. The only downfall that I have with the hydrator tint is that it doesn't have SPF in it. And when I'm wearing a skin tint, I do want some added SPF coverage. That way I'm getting a little bit more sun coverage with the foundation product that I'm putting on my face as well. But honestly, it's still a really good skin tint. I would call it like light to medium coverage foundation. It makes me look young. It makes me look youthful, and it is just so pretty on the skin. I could not get enough of this. And now I've not used this foundation in a couple of weeks, only because I have been loving on another foundation that was a favorite of mine for a while. But I wanted to mention this one because this was used a lot right after I did my Catrice video, and I couldn't stop using it, and I still can't stop using it. It's the Catrice True Skin Foundation. The shade I have is Cool Nude, which is 007. This is just a medium to full coverage foundation. It is a little bit more on the matte side, but it is very long lasting. It has hyaluronic acid in it, and I found that this just makes my skin look so flawless. And so, like, it's matte, but not quite matte. It's like a satin. I'd say it's a satin foundation because it's not quite matte, but not quite like dewy glowy. So it's like a satin foundation, very full coverage, very long lasting. I tried the Catrice True Skin a couple years ago. And when I was doing like what's new with Catrice, I was like, I need to get my hands on this one again because it is such a good foundation and I absolutely love it. And 007 Cool Nude is my foundation match. But this foundation lasts a really long time. It has a satin coverage to it. It's medium to full coverage depending on how you apply it. If you apply it with a brush, definitely it's more full coverage. If you apply it with the beauty blender, it's definitely more of that medium coverage, but it does have hyaluronic acid in it. It does like make your skin look juicy and beautiful and just kind of like lit from within and like youthful. And if you are somebody who has mature skin, it doesn't settle into my fine lines. It doesn't over accentuate any of my pores. And I just found that it sits really nicely on the skin and your skin just kind of like absorbs it, but in a good way. It doesn't look cakey either. And it's just such a beautiful foundation. If I remember it, it's like $10 and it's so good. You can find it on Amazon. And then the last one, but this is the Revlon 3X Age Rewind Foundation. This has been a favorite foundation of mine for a while. I actually wore this foundation when I went to the Creators and Friends holiday party when I went in Vegas, and I bought this foundation the first time a couple years ago, right around Halloween, and I used it, fell in love with it, used it so much that I panned the entire bottle. So this is my second my second bottle of this foundation. And what it is it's a age rewind type of foundation, but it does have a lot of like skincare ingredients in it. It is very like serum-y feeling on the skin. And it really just makes me feel like my skin has been like rewound a little bit because it does have those skin loving ingredients in it. It looks really good. I do have over texturization like under my eyes, and I do have some fine lines, and it erases all of that. It just sits so beautiful on the skin. It pairs amazingly with the Catrice Aqua Grip Primer, but also with the e.l.f. Power Gripping Primer. And it lasts so long on my face, and it makes me just look so youthful and radiant and beautiful. Reddit has been floating around that it might be being discontinued. This is like one of my favorite foundations, so I am begging Revlon, please do not discontinue one of my favorite foundations because it is so pretty, so youthful, and it just looks amazing on my skin. Okay, the last category that we're going to be talking about in this video is concealer. I have 5 concealers that I have not been able to stop using in 2024. We'll start with the oldest one first, the one that I couldn't put down at the beginning of 2024, which is the KVD Vegan Beauty concealer. I actually got this on sale at the end of 2023, and I use this a lot in 2024. Yeah, she smells. She's old. I haven't used this in a while, but at the beginning of 2024, this was the concealer I was using. It's a very matte concealer, but very full coverage. And the shade that I have is Light 103. So I use this a lot for brightening my under eyes, putting it over foundation, and just like doing a couple dots here and there and brightening. But when I tell you I use this so much, like there's barely anything left in the tube. Like there's hardly anything left in this packaging for me to be able to use it to begin with. So this was a concealer that I fell in love with at the end of last year and ended up using into 2024 and falling completely in love with it. It's got a very full coverage, very matte look, but it almost feels kind of serum-y, like under the under eyes. And I found that it didn't really settle into my fine lines as long as I set it pretty quickly with like a really nice setting powder, like the Sephora Micro Smooth setting powder. That was one of the ones that I would use. And I just had like the smoothest under eyes with this concealer. It was so beautiful. But I haven't used this since the beginning of 2024, but it was one that I used for a good 4 months at the beginning of 2024, and I couldn't put it down like at all. And then another one that I actually have been loving, and you guys can tell, it's been, look how much is used in this concealer because I have been loving this concealer. It's over halfway used. And this is the Maybelline Fit Me concealer in the shade 10. This is just like a creamy, medium coverage concealer. It sits really nicely on the skin because it is creamy, and it's not really matte, but it's not really like super glowy, dewy over the top. It just sets down to like a nice satin finish. The shade that I have is number 10. And it is one that really matches my skin tone more than it does brighten, which I really liked using this for concealing a lot of my blemishes. So this is a concealer that I could like spot conceal, and then I could just put some on my under eyes as I like draw. But I could put this on my under eyes. I could spot conceal with it, put on like a very, very light dusting of powder, and go on my way about my day, especially in the summertime. This was like my summer concealer. And as you can see, like I've used quite a bit of this. It's so good. It's a creamy concealer. It has a medium coverage. It doesn't settle into my fine lines or wrinkles. It matches my skin tone more. So it does a lot more of like really good concealing without doing a lot of brightening. And I love this concealer. It is probably one of the best drugstore concealers I have ever tried. Besides, there's another concealer from Maybelline. It is the Activewear 30 Hour. I heard they're discontinuing that one too. That one I haven't used in 2024, but that's a really good one too. There are 3 like serum-y type concealers that I have not been able to stop using in 2024. The first one is the Tower 28 concealer. I purchased this concealer at the end of 2023 when I went to the first Creators and Friends holiday party. And I was like, everybody's been raving about it. I should try it. Like, let's see what this Tower 28 serum concealer is all about. And I did. I tried it, and it was just like pure perfection on my face. It's a very underrated concealer. Not a lot of people talk about it, but it's very serum-y in consistency. It honestly, if you are somebody who is in your 30s and you have fine lines, this is something that like it doesn't settle into those, but it's very moisturizing on your under eyes, and it really creates this beautiful makeup look where like your eyes just look like they've been like rewound, and they just look so beautiful. It's not texturizing at all. It is such a beautiful concealer. It is so underrated. It's like $24. but it is so good. I've heard it compared to the Natasha Denona concealer, and I've heard that it is like amazing and comparable to that as well. I never had any problems with it like expiring because Tower 28 is more of a clean beauty brand, but I do not have that concealer anymore because it's a year old and I declutter after like a year, which, do you guys want to see a declutter? Let me know. Anyway, so the last two concealers I recently tried at the end of 2024, but I haven't been able to stop using them, and they pretty much replaced the Tower 28 concealer because they do the same exact thing, and I actually use them in conjunction with each other quite a bit. The first one is the Catrice True Skin Concealer. The shade that I have, it's very, very similar to my skin tone, and so I use it just for a lot of concealing and not a lot of brightening. So on days when I feel like if I'm brightening too much and I look very bagged under here, I just use the True Skin Concealer. The True Skin Concealer is very serum-y in consistency, and it is just very lightweight feeling on the skin, and it blends out so beautifully with both a sponge and a brush, and it just looks absolutely stunning. And this is another concealer that I have done this before, where I've just put the concealer on, like in some problem areas, powdered my face, and then put some like a one and done eyeshadow on, some mascara, and went about my day. Like, that's how good this concealer is. It's so beautiful. It has a very moisturizing feel to the under eyes, and it doesn't texturize at all. I pair that with the LYS concealer, which is also another serum-y type concealer. The shade that I have in the LYS concealer is a little bit lighter. So this is the concealer that I like to use for brightening my under eyes, but it still has that serum-like consistency. Very, very lightweight. Very, very, like, it feels like it's not even on your skin. That's how beautiful it is. I found that when I pair the two together, my under eyes just look really, really smooth and really youthful. And I can't get enough of that concealer combination, but on its own, it's a really brightening shade for me. So that's something to keep in mind, is like the shade that I have is a little bit brightening for me. So I would love this in like a little bit darker of a shade so that it matches my skin tone just a little bit more. And these two, I haven't been able to stop putting on my face. I took them to Las Vegas with me, and they are so beautiful on my skin. That is what we have for the base products. We did foundation, we did primer, and we did concealer. Definitely stay tuned to my next video where I'm going to highlight on highlighter, blush, bronzer. If you guys like this kind of content, definitely consider subscribing before you go so that you guys can see the rest of my most used in 2024.